evil human experiments that actually happened.
Evil human experiments. Alright fellas, let's start things off a little easy. Back in the 4th century BC, Greek civilization was reaching new heights. People were getting more and more curious about the world around us and began asking really important questions. What does that do? How does that work? Should I do a Did I leave the oven on? How do magnets work? Will she call me back? Is this real life? Or is
The late night thinking, where it all happens.
this just fantasy? Shrimp really fry the rice or not? All pretty valid questions for people just wishing to learn the workings of the natural world. While many focus on the mechanics of the universe, others chose to focus on the inner workings of humans themselves, and not only from a philosophical standpoint. Sometimes you just want to know what makes us tick. That's what Greek physician Herophilus wanted to find out and document in detail. After getting his education at the Hippocratean medical school in Greece, Herophilus turned his bulging eyes towards the city of Alexandria, Egypt, with its big, throbbing library chock full of scrolls just begging to be read. "Time to go to Egypt," he said, and so he did. Doot, doot, doot. After getting himself established and taking on a student, a young physician named Erasistratus, they got to work. Together, the two men would begin to carve out a new branch of science, anatomy. But in order to do so, you need some bodies to cut open to start slopping their guts around. And what better way to obtain fresh bodies than to use condemned
Yeah, of course. The experiments begin from the prisoner.
criminals, captured and supplied by the Alexandrian rulers. Little Hero and Era were like kids in a candy store with a hopeful glimmer in their eyes, excited to begin their wondrous experiments. But surely the criminals put under the knife were already past their expiration date, right? Nope. Instead, Hero and Era performed live human dissections.
Live human dissection, what the hell?
Called vivisections to broaden their understanding of the human body. They even went as far as to perform these surgeries in full view of the public for anyone who thought it would be cool and interesting. Wow, that's both cool and interesting.
Yup, that is so cool and interesting. Let me just see such a cool concept. Let me watch someone get dissected in public. Yup. Yup. No, I'm just kidding. This is disgusting and weird.
That's what I'm saying. Herophilus documented their findings in extreme detail, making breakthrough discoveries of the human anatomy. In doing so, he inflicted unimaginable suffering to his subjects. Since anesthetics weren't really a thing back then, the victims felt every cut and slice, at least until they passed out from the pain or died of blood loss. Dissecting intestines, reproductive organs, eyes, or even purposefully damaging the motor nerves to inflict paralysis. It was basically a big game of, what does this button do?
What does that do? What does me cutting your organs do? What does me doing that do? Yeah. The curiosity is getting them tortured. Yeah, that scream was real.
In the end, Hero and Era's findings over 40 years of vivisections were revolutionary for the medical world, especially since human dissection would be outlawed shortly after their work was completed. It wouldn't be until 1800 years later that performing human dissections would be a medically acceptable practice again. But like, you know, on dead people, their
Yeah, like, not alive people. Yeah.
work was stored in the renowned Library of Alexandria, but they were lost in the Great Fire a few hundred.
Like, if they were actually criminals and, like, maybe they did something terrible, maybe that makes sense. But, like, think about all the criminals that were probably, like, wrongfully there and everything.
100 years later. Project 4.1 was actually a side project proposed immediately after the deployment of Castle Bravo, a high-yield thermonuclear bomb that was dropped in 1954 by the United States. Bravo was part of Operation Castle, a series of other high-yield nuclear tests with the goal of establishing superiority over the Soviet Union. The Marshall Islands, a remote Pacific group of islands, served as ground zero for the detonation of the nuclear weapons. Castle Bravo was the strongest detonation and surprisingly produced 2.5 times the expected explosive yield, resulting in an explosive force.
That looks massive. Holy shit. Like, looks like cloud, like a fiery cloud. I mean, I guess that's what it is. But like, that just looks like, damn, like what the hell? Like, I bet like on the ground that this was dropped, like you can't grow anything like ever again there. That's for sure. Like after all this, like ain't no way.
Equivalent to 15 megatons of TNT. To put that into perspective, that is 1,000 times the explosive force of the.
This looks like the tree of death. Like, drop it and like creates that tree, you're dead. I mean, you're dead the second it hits it, but like, damn, like the roots going all out over here. Fucking oh, damn.
Nuclear bomb dropped on Hiroshima, Japan in the final days of World War II. Like, goddamn. To make matters worse, the Marshall Islands were occupied with citizens. So US officials were kind of like, sir, shouldn't we get those people out of the...
Bless you.
Thanks, sir. Allergies have been bothering me all day. Must be the radiation, right? No, but seriously, are we gonna get those people out of the radiation zone?
Yeah, you know, that was on my to-do list. Well, too late now, so let's just see how things turn out.
Damn, no way. Like, there was people there and they didn't even do anything about it. Like, come on now, what are you doing? Like you gotta have some like humanity, like you know, like attacking someone like innocent and like all that. Like that's a war crime, isn't it? Like what?
Operation Castle was quickly amended with the addition of Project 4.1. This new section aimed to study the human response to significant radiation exposure. You know, as if tens of thousands of victims in Hiroshima and Nagasaki weren't evidence enough. Commander...
Yeah. How about you take history into account and not do certain experiments, because you can probably already see it when we don't want more death. I think we're good. Like, we don't want more death. I know that we don't want more death. I think we can stop.
Of the U.S. Naval Medical Corps, Eugene Cronkite, was in charge of the project and swore everyone involved to absolute secrecy because he thought the public wouldn't be too keen on the whole test nuclear radiation on non-consenting people thing.
Yeah, he looks like that's something he would do too. Like what? Like, how about like other people did that to these type of people? Like, you know, the type of people that like don't care about putting like other people down and like hurting other people. Like, what if like the people that they cared about were the ones hurt? Like what?
Overall, 230.
I don't understand people like that, like ever.
39 Marshallese residents were exposed to significant levels of radiation and began showing signs of radiation poisoning a few days later.
Yeah, I wonder why. Like, it's not like we had already seen similar things before, but you want to go and get more people hurt and killed?
Symptoms included loss of hair and significant skin damage with weeping wounds, although the wounds did heal rather quickly. Immediate observations ceased after 75 days with the conclusion that no long-term effects were likely. But just out of curiosity, regular checkups were performed on the residents for years after. Women saw increases in miscarriages and stillbirths, and newborns that survived experienced were performed on the residents for years after.
Yeah, for like information, like they wanted to make a data chart, but they ruined so many people's lives, affected so many people's lives. Like, but yeah, you know, let's get that check mark in the to-do list of their experiments.
Women saw increases in miscarriages and stillbirths, and newborns that survived experienced developmental difficulties.
Like, that's so harsh. Like imagine like going through all of that, like normally anyways, it's like so bad and everything, but like you're going through it because like someone decides to like do experiments on you for like no reason, without no consent or anything. and you experimenting all these things, like, man, like that probably made like, I know that made people, so many people go into depression and everything, like you know, especially people getting so much miscarriages and stuff, and like the people like who were born with like, you know, like certain things that they need.
impaired growth, and a disproportionate development of thyroid cancer. In addition,
Yeah, like born with cancer and stuff like that, like like before they were even born, like these people who wanted to do experiments ruin their lives. Like that's so messed up. Like what if like things like these happen to like their families or like them, like what? That's just like so disturbing.
about 1/3 of those exposed had developed significant tumors by 1974, 20 years after Operation Castle commenced. In the following years, Marshallese representatives spoke out against the United States with accusations that the scope of the experiment was premeditated and intentional, to which the US officials responded, "Nuh-uh."
Yeah, obviously you're not gonna lie. Like, I mean, obviously you're not gonna be honest about like doing that to the. But like, they would have been like, huh, the public would have destroyed them. I feel like if they're like, oh yeah, we did it, whatever. Like, they're not gonna admit to their crimes. Obviously, they're obviously gonna be like, yeah, no, I didn't do that. Yeah, we didn't do that. Why would we do that? We do everything for the people. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm sure there have been times where they just don't tell the truth for their own benefit.
During the early years of the Soviet Union, it wouldn't be uncommon for political opponents to quickly fall ill with a strong case of the death at the hands of poison. In fact, it was quite an
The strong case of the death is actually crazy.
effective and discreet way to silence any and all opposition without causing too much of a stir. Well, besides the public reacting to mysterious deaths.
And that is why we must rise up against. Oh, look at that. They got another one.
So
Like, yo, that's actually crazy though. Like, cause I'm sure we have noticed, like everyone has noticed as well. Like, so many things happen, then we start to question certain people or like, you know, certain like figures or whatever. And like I see so many people in like, you know, like social media saying, oh, like we're gonna do this, we're gonna make the change and everything, and all of a sudden like certain people like just all of a sudden disappear or something, and everyone stops talking about it. It's like everyone just stops like either caring or they just forget that it happens. Like it's so weird. It's like, you know, like our like videos I guess kind of change too. And it's like whenever like I know this is off topic, but whenever I'm looking at movies or like shows or something, I don't know, let's say I came back from a movie and like, you know, obviously, and like I'm like on my phone or whatever, and like the social media already knows that I'm watching like whatever movie I watched. Like, and they be having like edits about that movie or like, you know, like clips from that movie. It's like they are listening. Like it is like no way, like no matter how much they deny it or whatever, like we are like low key being listened to. And like I feel like whenever something major happens and everyone like all the people are like, oh, like we're starting to notice and everything, something happens, then we like kind of forget, or something happens and like something else takes our attention.
how were the Soviets so good at developing successful poisons? Well, you've got to run preliminary trials on living subjects, of course. So in 1921,
Of
a year
course,
before
gotta do it on the living people, you know, harm more people, you know.
the Soviet Union officially formed, the Kamera was established. This was the Soviet Secret Service's poison laboratory. Here, new deadly poisons were developed and tested on human subjects. Those tested were prisoners from the gulags, various labor camps built around the country for anyone who even had a fleeting thought that wasn't approved by the Soviet Union.
Carry on.
The ultimate goal of the Kamera was to devise a poison that was not only lethal, but undetectable. It would be colorless, tasteless, odorless, and untraceable in an autopsy. Prisoners would be unknowingly administered various test poisons, which were disguised
Yeah, cause you know nothing like a poison that you can't see when you even when you're being tested to see if something happened, or just let me just test a bunch of poisons on people, like because why not? Because I want to, because he felt like it, I guess. Like why? Like come on, man.
As medication. For me, if it isn't an orange Flintstone vitamin, I don't trust it. The various poisons tested included ricin, which causes severe internal.
Like thinking about all these things, like it low-key makes me kind of understand like some of the people who don't take like certain shots, like at the doctor. It's kind of understandable. Like thinking about everything and like looking at all these things about history and all these things that happen. Like I'm like I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
Distress and suffering, cyanide, which can cause violent seizures and heart attacks, and curare, a potent muscle relaxant that makes you painfully choke to death. In the end, the tests were pretty successful. For the Soviet Union, not for the prisoners. Research led to innovative ways to discreetly dispatch a target, from deploying a cyanide mist to making an assassination look like a heart attack. But the blue ribbon winner was the concoction known as C2, carbolamine choline chloride, which was basically liquid depression. Exposure to this sucker sparked a very curious reaction. Instead of a violent telltale "I've been poisoned" type death, the victim would simply become weak with a rapid decline in health, all while maintaining a calm and silent demeanor. Death occurred within 15 minutes. Since the dissolution of the Soviet Union,
they were like killing, like not killing. They're making shit to like just wipe out the, I don't know, like wipe out countries. It seems like why do we need all this?
In 1991, Russian officials have claimed that the Kamera has been disestablished and abandoned. Yeah, sure. Now, you may have heard about the Tuskegee syphilis study, which was an unethical medical study funded by the United States Public Health Service in 1932, which involved the study of nearly 400 African American men who had naturally contracted syphilis. The goal was to observe the effects of the disease when left untreated in African American males. Even though penicillin, an antibiotic cure for syphilis, eventually became widely available to the public, the afflicted men were intentionally never cured. Fucked up, right? Well, the US decided to outdo themselves with the Guatemalan syphilis experiment. In 1946 to 1948, more than 5,500 Guatemalan natives, including children, were involved in the experiment against their will, with the Guatemalan government granting access to the unwilling patients in hospitals, mental institutions, and even orphanages. Around 1,300.
This is like why are we going after children, orphanages, like anyone? But like, come on now, like, why are all these people stooping so low? Like, leave these people alone. Like, let people just live in peace, man. Like, we all have one life. It's so sad to think about all these deaths that's occurred. It doesn't matter if they were adults or kids. Like, it's so sad to think about because, like, they missed their life, like, their whole, like, life to live. Like, they couldn't live their whole life because of these, like, weirdo experiment, like, people who want to do experiment on people without their consents. Like, it's just, like, I'm glad, though, that, like, we're actually, like, getting, like, this video is talking about him because it's, like, at least, like, they're talked about and like we know like what happened to them and everything, so we know like in the future like maybe like to prevent it, we as humans.
Relatively healthy individuals ages 10 to 72 were intentionally infected with syphilis and even gonorrhea. Transmission was either done by direct bacterial contact into wounds or by sexual transmission with infected native sex workers, which were funded by the US government, by the way. The latter of which proved to be
the amount of times that he's mentioned the US government being involved in all this, it's just so sad. Like, come on now.
Very effective method of infection. The guy in charge of these experiments was Dr. John C. Cutler, but you can call him Dr. Dickass. He often failed to keep accurate medical records of his experiments and instead would only provide anecdotal evidence in his findings. probably because he knew what he was doing was unethical, which very much sounds like something only a dickass would do. But all joking aside, the experiments conducted on these people were gruesome. Perhaps one of the most notable documented examples of what these people experienced was about a female patient named Berta. The following is an excerpt from that document. Berta was a female patient in the psychiatric hospital. In February 1948, Berta was injected in her left arm with syphilis. A month later, she developed scabies. Several weeks later, Dr. Cutler noted that she had also developed red bumps where he had injected her arm, lesions on her arms and legs, and her skin was beginning to waste away from her body. Berta was not treated for syphilis until 3 months after her injection. Soon after, on August 23rd, Dr. Cutler wrote that Berta appeared as if she was going to die, but he did not specify why. That same day, he put gonorrheal pus from another male subject into both of Berta's eyes, as well as her private areas. He also reinfected her with syphilis. Several days later, Berta's eyes were filled with pus from the gonorrhea, and she was bleeding from her private area. 3 days later, on August 27th, Berta died. Told you he was a dick ass.
What the actual hell? I think something like way worse happened to him. Cause like, what are these like what is going on in these type of people's like heads when they are doing this, when they are type of thinking this? Like, we need to like, I feel like there have been so much cases as well in the medical field, like where certain people have been this way, and it's like, damn, like. You know, it's sad to think about. It's like some people, you know, like not in the medical field, but some people are like a way where they're like think like this. Like, you know, they genuinely think like this and they don't think anything wrong of it. This is truly disturbing to think about.
The overall goal of the study was to determine the effectiveness of penicillin in preventing the STDs. Dr. Cutler had allegedly finalized his reports in 1955, but no evidence was ever found proving that the reports were submitted for peer review or even published. So, out of all of that suffering, nothing of medical value was produced. Though, I will say in some glimmer of fairness, a treatment program was established by the United States and made available to the affected Guatemalan population, but only half were reported to actually have received treatments with a questionable quality of care. United States President Barack Obama formally apologized to the Guatemalan government in 2010, 62 years after the study was performed.
At least he apologized, I guess. Like, I mean, like, that is, apologizing doesn't really do much, but like, you know, like no one else thought to do it, but at least he did it, I guess. But like, all those people should have got better care, and like he said, even some of the people who did get care, it wasn't like the best. Like, we need to like. That is just, we need to like not we, but like the U.S. government should have like taken care of those other people even better though. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I feel like they didn't do like even close to as enough as they should have, because low-key that was a big part of their reason to why it happened.
Yeah, that last one was quite the doozy, huh? Well, buckle up because it's about to get way worse. See this right here? This is Unit 731. It was home to some of the most notorious and truly evil war crimes committed by the Japanese in World War II, which are definitely up there with some of the worst in the history of mankind. Unit 731 served as a lethal human experimentation and biological weapons laboratory during the Second Sino-Japanese War between China and Japan, which ran concurrent to most of the events of World War II. This nightmare facility was established in 1935 in the sub-provincial Chinese city of Harbin, 4 years after Japanese forces invaded the Chinese region of Manchuria. Inside, hundreds of thousands of Chinese and even some Russian prisoners of war were subjected to some of the most egregious and horrifying human experimentations known to man. Experiments performed on men, women, and children, which is everyone. Those chosen for experimentation were dehumanized and referred to as maruta, or logs, rather than as people, because the cover-up story for Unit 731 was that it was a lumber mill. It should be noted that the vast majority of the experiments in the facility were carried out to fulfill morbid curiosity, with those performing or overseeing the studies described as merely playing. A testimony from a Japanese professor who witnessed the studies was quoted saying that,
"Playing is not the right word, man. What are you playing with exactly? People's lives?" Yeah. Okay.
some of the experiments had nothing to do with advancing the capability of germ warfare or of medicine. There is such a thing as professional curiosity. What would happen if we did such and such? What medical purpose was served by performing and studying beheadings? None at all. That was just playing around. Professional people, too, like to
Who wanted to play around and behead?
play. So basically, experiments were like, I wonder what would happen if we just hucked a grenade at a guy. Bang. Oh look, he exploded. Hey, can I go home now? Gee, I wonder if...
What the hell, bro? Like, oh yeah, let me just see what happens if I shoot someone, if I throw a grenade at someone, if I do this. Okay, how about you stay curious and let these people live, man? How about that?
this large heavy object will crush this guy. Yup. Will this guy freeze to death if I freeze him to death? Wow, who would have guessed? A lot of these experiments were designed to test the absolute limits of the human body. Tests included depriving victims of food or water to see how long they could survive, placing victims in low-pressure chambers until their eyes popped from their skulls, injecting victims with animal blood, hanging victims upside down until death, or even...
Like, what did injecting them with animal blood do? I mean, what did all of it, like, what was I don't get the point of any of this, but like, what?
draining victims of blood just to study blood loss limits. Some victims were even dehydrated in front of large hot fans.
This is so, like, crazy to, like, listening to. Like, I can't even imagine how these people must have felt while, like, going through all these things and, like, you know, like, what the hell?
To the point of mummification. At the time of death, they only weighed 20% of their initial body weight. Perhaps one of the worst examples I've read was the forced pregnancy of female victims. The mothers were injected with various diseases and drugs just to see how they affected the unborn child. Sometimes performing a vivisection, cutting the fetus out of the mother for examination. There's honestly so many more gruesome experiments.
That is just so, like, disturbing. Like, what? Y'all, like, being curious about certain things is good and all, but, like, this type of curiosity needs to stay in your head, buddy. Like, we can't let this type of stuff ever happen again, man. This hearing about this makes you, like, you know, feel a certain way. Like, I wish, like there was some justice for these people, but
that I just can't get into here. So if you are curious, I would encourage you to look them up.
But it's like legit really bad, so you've been warned.
By the end of the war, as Soviet forces were closing in, Japanese officials had all remaining prisoners executed and the entirety of Unit 731 hastily demolished to destroy any remaining evidence of the program's existence.
yeah, like, let's cause all this torture and pain and suffering. Oh shit, we might get caught. Shut everything up, kill everyone. Like, it is that easy for them.
It had discovered trace evidence and pressured Japanese officials into spilling the beans to destroy any remaining evidence of the program's existence. The United States had discovered trace evidence and pressured Japanese officials into spilling the beans, under threat that they would be handed over to Soviet officials for trial and punishment if they did not cooperate. Once the US learned the full extent of the horrors of Unit 731, all of those involved were swiftly brought to trial and executed for their crimes.
Oh my god, thank God that they were executed for their crimes, though. Hey, at least the US kind of came in clutch, I guess, and they were like, you better tell me or I will get you all gone.
Except, no, they actually weren't. In reality, the United States claimed that the data collected from the inhumane atrocities was actually pretty valuable, since it is otherwise
Never mind, I spoke too soon, I guess. What the hell, United States? I thought you were gonna punish those people who did all those bad things.
ethically unobtainable through conventional means. As such, many of those involved were granted immunity and freedom in exchange for the data. The deal was
Immunity and freedom for the data. United States. Like, you, like, in that case, I see you just as, like, Loki, just as bad as the other. You didn't give justice. You could have, but you didn't. Instead, you gave freedom.
struck, and the United States kept everything under lock and key. The Soviet Union, however, pursued trials against the top military leaders and scientists from Unit 731. In the end, only 12 individuals were tried and sentenced to several years in labor camps, although the United States repeatedly denied that Unit 731 ever existed. Oh, that was a bummer. Here's something to cheer you up.
No, that's crazy. Yeah, like, you're gonna, like, let the people have freedom and gonna pretend like you didn't even know about the thing. Oh yeah, it didn't exist. You know, I got what I needed. Doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter how much people got hurt. No, that's just so messed up though. But the way, like, this guy in the video, like, explained everything, it was, like, really interesting to watch and follow up and understand. Like, I really enjoyed it. It was fun. See you guys next time.